Thank you everyone for joining. My name is Aashrey and I lead the education investments at Act for Education. And I'm very excited to be leading the panel today on how AI, the new wave of generative AI, can impact education and skilling. Before we start, I want to quickly introduce our esteemed panel. On my left, we have uh, Raghu. He's the president of Artpark, one of its kind non-profit public-private partnership that promotes technology innovations in AI and robotics. Welcome, Raghu. We're very happy to have you. Next, we have Shashank. Shashank is the founder of Convegenius, an edtech enterprise driven to solve educational equity in India through conversational AI chatbots and PAL solutions. Welcome, Shashank. We have Shubhra. Shubhra heads government partnerships at Khan Academy that is aiming to solve the problem of free education for all in India. Welcome, Shubhra. We have Aditya, who's the co-founder of Doubtnut, one of India's largest edtech solutions, helping students learn at home through doubt-solving capabilities and test prep solutions. Next, we have Gaurav, Chief Growth Officer at EkStep Foundation, which aims to solve societal problems such as education at scale through leveraging technology. And last but not least, we have Mekin, founder of Udhyam Foundation, who's building an ecosystem to empower and inspire Indian youth to achieve their potential. Can you have a quick round of applause for our panelists, please? All right. So I think it's safe to assume that everyone in this room has definitely heard of the term ChatGPT in the last few months. Yes? I myself use it regularly, whether it's trying to improve my own writing or just for fun testing its limits. I recently read an article by Bill Gates which said that the development of AI and other similar products like ChatGPT is as important or can be as important than technologies such as the mobile phone or the internet. And it has the potential to fundamentally change the way we talk, the way we learn, and communicate with each other. At ACT, we're also very excited about the potential of generative AI when it comes to education and skilling, such as acting as a private tutor for struggling kids in India or giving a virtual teaching assistant to every teacher in the country. However, one question I do find asking myself, is this really the tipping moment of the AI revolution? For today's discussion, our hope is to answer that question through real examples from the experiences of our panelists and through discussion amongst ourselves of potential use cases of this technology. Shubhra, I'll start with you first. So Khan Academy has been one of the first orgs that leverage edtech and is one of the early adopters when it comes to the new wave of generative AI like ChatGPT. Can you walk us through the journey of Khan Academy from a YouTube channel to an edtech platform to now a partnership with OpenAI, the creators of Khan Academy?
Sure. Thanks a lot, Aashrey. Yeah, I think most of you may have heard of Khan Academy, may be familiar with our founder, Sal Khan, and how he started, right? And he really just started creating YouTube videos back in 2008 and uploading them on YouTube. And this was really his way of tutoring his cousins and other students where he wasn't able to coordinate given time zone, geographies. And this was one easy way out. And this was while he had a day job. And in some way, I think we'd all agree, he pioneered the way technology could be used for education, for learning. And from then to now, I think we've come a long way. And as Khan Academy and as we've set up as an organization, our entire journey, our philosophy, I think it's been, there are 3-4 things which have been fundamental or core to it, right? One is we realized the power of technology to democratize education. And so when we were formally set up back in 2009, we were set up as a not-for-profit organization to ensure that anybody, anywhere had access to high-quality content and could learn anything. The second thing, which has been very core to Khan Academy and to the product, is Sal's very early realization that the grade level way of teaching and learning that's sort of true of education systems around the world really lead to a lot of learning loss, and these gaps just accumulate over a period of time. What these education systems and what students don't have in some sense access to is to have mastery learning, really to kind of have the time to master concepts and move at their own pace. And teachers, given the ways classrooms are structured, also cannot give the personalized one-on-one attention, coaching, tutoring to their student. And so when we realized the power of technology to do that, and that's how Khan Academy is really set up. So it is a mastery enabled platform. And what that really means is, as a student, you can learn at your own pace. There's a lot of content for maths, science, arts, languages, economics, computer science, coding. I mean, you name it, there's a lot of content, increasingly adding new subjects. And all of this content has a lot of practice exercises, videos, explains concepts very simply. And it enables the student to truly take owners of their learning journey and to kind of just spend time, master concepts. What is less known about Khan Academy and the products that we have is it's also designed to support and enable a teacher to provide the kind of personalized support to their students. So Khan Academy platform has inbuilt tools for a teacher to empower the teacher to manage their classrooms, to manage learning, to see where their students are, where their classroom is, and then to kind of guide instruction along that way. And so from 2009 to now, the kind of growth we've seen is we've gone from 50,000 users to 120 million users across 190 countries. We're available in 50 languages. In India, we have more than 1 million users coming to our platform every month. We're working with 6 different public school systems across 10,000 schools, seeing how Khan Academy can be integrated into classroom settings in these public schools and can be used to accelerate learning. And so that was kind of our journey and has been our journey so far. And the product in some way is out there. It's completely free. Anybody can use it. And to the conversations that we're having, right? And back last year, back in July, August, when Sal was approached by OpenAI and was given a preview of ChatGPT 4, which they launched in March, I think it sort of, I think, led us to think about the kind of endless possibilities that that we now have, that we can now do to accelerate learning, things that we only dreamed of, we talked about, kind of became a reality in some way and very, very quickly. Before I talk about what we are actually doing and exactly how Carmigo, which is our AI tool, is designed, I'll maybe take a pause and step back. And something that Aashrey and Akanksha asked me when we were discussing the panel, and they said, can you demystify generative AI, large language models for us? I mean, these are words that we've all heard, that we've been reading about. And I was thinking about it to myself. I said, why don't I try ChatGPT 4 and see what does it throw up? If I was to just ask, give me a 2-minute script to explain generative AI and large language models to a layman audience, and I'm going to read out what it actually told me. And really, hoping that it tells us the kind of things we can do and almost sparks ideas for all of us. So generative AI refers to the ability of machines to generate new content, such as images, videos, and even text. And this is made possible by complex algorithms that allow machines to learn patterns from large amounts of data and generate new content that follows these patterns, right? And so you're essentially just giving the prompt, and the machine is able to identify certain patterns and is giving you some content based on that. Now, when you top generative AI with large language models, that's when it's becoming incredibly revolutionary. And we have things like GPT-3, GPT-4, which is an even more powerful version of GPT-3 for those of us.
Can you guys give one example also of how Khanmigo is now using some of these ChatGPT capabilities
And
that
so-
wasn't possible before?
And so I think what we did and what we said is that instead of having students and parents and teachers actually use ChatGPT 4, which is almost there, how do we create a more trained tool, which is Khanmigo, to kind of and train it to give it the kind of responses that you need in education and truly drive education. So to give you an example, one of the biggest fears around ChatGPT has been that it will enable students to cheat, right? They could easily put a question, they would get the answer, and that's not what you would want. With Khanmigo, if the student was to ask, hey, give me the answer to this, Khanmigo would not give them the answer, and Khanmigo would instead prompt them and say, I'm your tutor. Why don't you tell me how you think you would go about doing this? And it would, in some way, play the role of a really well trained tutor to get the student to go about. And if the student makes a mistake and gets a question wrong, Khanmigo would ask the student to walk them through the process of how they arrived at the solution, and try and then understand where their misconceptions were, where their knowledge gaps were, and in some way through prompt engineering, really try to get them to get to the right answer. From a teacher's lens, what Khanmigo has been designed to do is, um, teachers can now say, hey, I want to teach this concept. Can you help me, like, tell me a lesson plan, or tell me some activities that I can do in my classroom to kind of get this concept to my student. And Khanmigo would tell them exactly what, some ideas that they would throw. They can truly engage with the AI in a way where they're having a conversation, getting the kind of inputs they need, and really be able to take it forward. I think one of the other pieces that I want to mention, because this is again a concern, is around privacy and around the kind of conversations that are happening, and particularly as parents and educators, there's a lot of concern on what kind of interactions students might be having. And so one of the big guardrails we have as part of Khanmigo is that the entire conversation is monitored, right? And if there's any conversation which is inappropriate, Khanmigo would flag it, and Khanmigo would inform the students, parent, and teacher, so that they're also aware of any inappropriate conversation that's happening. And so as we're developing this, right, we're I think at the tip of the iceberg in terms of the things we can do. There's a lot that one can think about with voice technology, with images, with many other pieces, interpreting data, throwing up insights. I think we're really at the tip of the iceberg. As Khan Academy, we really want to leverage the potential that it has, but do that in a very responsible way. So I'll pause here.
Thank you, Shubhra. I think one thing that I took away from your example was how it's able to contextualize responses based on a student's needs, right? A student may have, like, 5 different students might get stuck at 5 different steps for any specific math problem, but earlier it wasn't maybe as easy for technology to understand where someone's getting stuck, and now it's able to really understand that context and then give a more personalized help. I think so. Next questions for Aditya and Shashank, both of you. From a founder perspective, you've been running edtech organizations that are focusing on the bottom 50% of India, or what we sometimes refer to as Bharat. What role do you think the new wave of generative AI will play specifically when you're talking about this audience when it comes to education and skilling? In your heads, what might a post ChatGPT world look for Bharat? And as founders, how are you thinking of integrating this in your products?
Should I go? So interesting one. So at CG, we have always believed in the power of nudged learning, which is how do we combine data points around assessments, learning, user behavior to really create very effective nudges to let the user move in the right direction automatically without losing the human touch. Now, when you do nudges to improve learning, to improve teaching in a system, obviously generative AI can help you improve the quality and the quantity of the nudges. So it's not a full solution, but definitely a significant part of the solution going forward. So, but I think in Bharat, I give this example to my team, right? If you go to a small town city and go to a bank and see a rural consumer entering a bank has hundreds of services to provide, but a consumer really struggles to figure out what services to avail, how to avail, etc. And just to extend this analogy to edtech, I think today ChatGPT is not even a significant search engine for users in Bharat. They struggle with Google search, forget ChatGPT, right? So I think edtech can be a great prompt layer over ChatGPT, and that's what we have started doing. I mean, just to simplify it, think of it as a front-end layer over ChatGPT, which can add context, which can add creativity, which can add capacity. Because if teachers don't know how to ask follow-up questions to ChatGPT, EdTech can create that capacity automatically through a very smart interface over it. And when you do that, along with some other things like NLP, because users will not type it in English all the time. Students will type it in English or broken Hindi, broken English. When you add the powers of like NLP, if you have more machine learning data around user behavior, which is also in the EdTech layer, the kind of prompts that EdTech can do to ChatGPT also, improve, which will improve your response back from ChatGPT to EdTech to the user again, right? So I can give you some specific examples. Some of that we have tried already in our platform. For example, we have built a bot called Swift Physics, which is just nothing but a NLP-enabled search engine for physics. You can ask any question in Hindi, broken English, or English to that bot. It will use NLP to translate that to English, get an answer from ChatGPT and respond it back to the user. That's one example. Another example you can think of is you can create tailored content out of ChatGPT. For example, on the EdTech layer, if students have not answered 2 questions correctly, you can ask ChatGPT that these are the 2 questions which the student has not been able to answer. Give me the 3rd question appropriately. It can do that. It may or may not give you the best question, but it can give it a try. And with more advanced language models, it will also become more accurate, more precise, and more personalized and human-like going forward. Similarly, if you go a little deeper, right? For example, if there's a tech product to improve speaking or improve writing, ChatGPT in the background can simulate a human-like conversation, which can improve your writing, right? Similarly, if there is most of the children in India, especially in government schools, are not at grade level, right? How do you then provide them instant feedback? If you're trying to build an adaptive solution, which is let's say 2 levels below the grade level child, and the teacher does not have the time to give that level of remediation, ChatGPT can be of help. Where a student can submit a solution, ChatGPT can evaluate it and give a response back whether this is right or wrong, which is instant feedback. So you're giving another level of personalization to the student, which is not dependent on the teacher in this case. And the list is like very long, right? The multiple use cases that are emerging now, right? So, but I think, and we've already come to an age where we have a AI bot reading news on Aastak. So another experiment we are doing, which is very interesting, is we are trying to create video and audio avatars for teachers. So that when students are interacting with our bots, they feel that they're talking to a teacher, a real teacher in that sense. So those days are not very far ahead. But yeah, so I think there's a lot of upside to using AI, but there's also certain risk attached to it. And some of the answers were very well articulated by Shubhra here. But we are very excited about using it to enhance the value of the offerings and add value to our users. It's definitely not the full solution, but a significant part of it. Thank you.
That's a great answer, Shashank. So, Aditya, what makes you excited about?
I'm very excited about technology. I'm techie at heart, but I'm also very wary of not jumping the gun and start playing with a shiny new toy which has come along our way. Now, with all the prompts and everything that we keep on hearing about, how to use GPT, I have one fundamental, let's say, disagreement with the whole process of it. We built Doubtnut to take care of anxiety of student. They have a question they want to ask, and they want to get an answer without being judged, right? And every prompt is a question back to the students. Students don't love questions. It adds to their anxiety. So I'm not very sure, how students, particularly Bharat, when we talk about the bottom 20% or bottom 80% of India, how the students are going to react to being asked to provide more prompts. What we have seen in our experience of working with these students, that they want straightforward instant gratification, right? To first help them calm their nerves, bring down their anxiety. What I mean by that is, we talked about answers before. Somebody asked a question, you don't want to give them answer, definitely, but you want to give them the assurance that your answer is on the way, right? You go through the video, you understand how this question is read, what concepts are to be solved, and then you apply the problem solving approaches and get to the answer finally, right? And by the time it happens, their anxiety, the primary anxiety is taken care of, which is when how we are thinking at Doubtnut of applying GPT is then we ask them, did you understand it? If not, ask. And then we are leveraging GPT-4 to, with the context of the question that they have watched and the context of the overall, beyond that question of the chapter. So you feed that as a prompt and let student ask questions on top of it, which when we see they are interacting more rather than in the first step where you ask them, अच्छा ये कर लिया, अब ये नहीं हुआ तो अब ये कर लो. They're in a very, very anxiety. You speak to these students, you will understand the anxiety that I'm talking about, right? Which is why I said GPT-4 is a shiny new toy, but we have to hold back, understand student psyche, and then bring it to their life so that they are able to get the best out of it. And it definitely is going to improve the solutions that we at tech companies or anybody else who is working in education are going to build. It will definitely add value to the lives of these students. Only thing is we have to understand, how we go about it. Some of the products, I was speaking to Aashrey a few weeks back that almost all of my technology team is now for next 6-8 weeks is going to just look at GPT and understand, what all use cases we can build, on top of it, right? We came up with 11, 12, 13 different, use cases that we can probably think of. But in everyone, they all look very good to be used. But when you translate it to the users, you take the POC back to the users, you come back with this constant feedback. It is good, but how do I make the UX of it really, really, really nice so that they can interact freely with it? Even the prompts, like he was talking about broken Hindi mein hoga, right? It will be in English. So how do you solve for it? So all these pieces, when gelled together, it is a very powerful tool which can add immense value to the lives of the students. And for companies like us also, it helps us. पहले जिस काम को करने के लिए we used to put a lot of technical bandwidth. With GPT, the pre-work that they have already done, we have directly jumped to solutioning on top of it with little pieces up and down of it, right? So in that way, all the tech companies, technology wise, all of us are at par, and it is just the use cases that we have to understand and build on top of it. So we are very, very, very excited to start building some really useful, valuable use cases for students for Bharat.
Very well put. I think one of the points you brought across exciting, but there is still some work to be done, right? To really understand essentially like user centricity. What does a Bharat audience really need, and to make it very contextual. I think on the very on the point of being just very practical about this and how will it really scale if you want to scale it to Bharat. Questions for Gaurav and Raghu, since you both have been working closely with government, scaling technologies in different sectors to the masses. What, in your opinion, will it take for ChatGPT or similar generative AI to really scale and reach their potential in India? What could be certain enablers of that?
All right. पहले आप में ट्रेन भी छूट जाती है तो I'll move. See, a very valid question in terms of looking at what can be done working at scale with governments and the ecosystem in this context. See, we at EkStep, when we look at India, and of course, none of us really know the answers, but one thing we realize is that India is big, complex, diverse. I don't know if there are continents out there in the world which have the same level of complexity or diversity that India has. Forget countries, right? So, and when I say diversity, what I mean is we have diverse cultures, we have diverse contexts, we have diverse economic strata, we have diverse languages that are spoken in the country. Now, won't be possible for a set of solutions to be able to solve for the challenges associated with this kind of diversity. So at EkStep, we took the plunge towards working on open digital public infrastructure, which can power diverse solutions and diverse use cases. Now, in this context, looking at AI, ChatGPT, etc., I mean, one of the things that we realize is that when it comes to diversity, because India has diverse languages, and language is one of the key foundations which is important for a child to learn any subject, and that impacts how they learn maths and different things and how do they really progress in life. So a lot of our effort in the recent past has been about building open digital public language infrastructure so that it can promote language interoperability. Now, what do I mean by that? What I mean is that it can hence power diverse use cases around, let's say, things like language learning, translation, multilingual transactions, and even things like building curiosity in children in their own language and in their own context. Few and let me also articulate that when we speak about GPT and stuff and generative AI, there are basically three layers in that, right? There is the large language models that you have at the base, then you have the fine-tuned models, and then you have the application layer kind of solutions which power different use cases ultimately. So in this context, EkStep is making two kinds of efforts. One is with Sunbird as a community, which is an open source community of building digital public goods and infrastructure to power use cases around translation, around language learning. And the second is with our investments in AI for Bharat, which is in partnership with IIT Madras, which also enables Bhashini, which is the Métis mission around this. I'll take a few use cases in terms of how something like this, kind of hits the ground. Now, of the three levels that I spoke of, we don't really work on the application layer. Work is primarily either around the middle layer, which is building fine-tuned models, and in the context of the AI for Bharat, also around data sets and large language models, which can support this language interoperability as an idea. So I'll speak about three specific use cases that it enables, and there are many, many more. One is, for example, language labs being opened in a state like Tamil Nadu, with a start being made with a language lab in Kuthalan, which is a small place in rural Tamil Nadu, which is to promote language learning in Tamil as well as in English for kids of grades 6 to 8 at the moment. Later on, it will be expanded. And there, the intent is to leverage AI and this infrastructure. So the application in that context is built by the Tamil Nadu government. But the fine-tuned model, which is in the context of this domain, is what we have enabled. And by this, what happens is that now the child can learn that local language as well as English in a personalized way in their own context with examples that resonate with them, and not something which may not really resonate. And now that is something which is scaling in terms of people kind of picking it up, and not only in Tamil Nadu but quite a few states also talking about how something like that can happen. Second example is that of translation. So translation has many use cases. So for example, you can have use cases around speech to text, text to speech, text to text. Broad three areas around translation. Around all three, how in the 22 official languages in India and many more dialects, can language infrastructure be made easily available so that the translation in these three avenues can happen in an easy way. We have already seen an example of this infrastructure being used by the Supreme Court to translate judgments through a application built by them called Anuvad, right? And likewise, many more things are showing up because I think there is no paucity of great content out there. The paucity is of that content being available in that local language in which a child or a student can really learn. So those are the some of the use cases around translation. Then the third is around the curiosity infrastructure. A recent example of that being a simple chatbot that we had kind of enabled, again using that infrastructure, and the ministry launched it recently, which is that recently, as all of you may be aware, in the context of NEP, NCF is being worked upon, right? And it will lead to changing the way instruction and delivery happens of the curriculum in the classrooms. Now, there are large documents of NCF which have been written, and everyone expects that every person on the ground should have easily understood them, right? So one of the use cases of this is how, through a chatbot kind of an interface, any student or even a teacher or even a parent can query NCF and get answers to their questions. For example, if I were to do an exercise with children which is about teaching them about measurement, what kind of examples can I take that are applicable in a rural kind of a setting in a classroom? And it takes reference to the NCF document and points out specific areas where such examples have been mentioned, and that kind of a thing has been done. So I think we have only scratched the surface, but the intent is to power diverse use cases around languages and enable language interoperability.
Go ahead, Raghu.
Yeah, very exciting conversation, but I'm going to deviate a little bit because coming into this discussion, I felt the elephant in the room is something like this. We've been testing kids like robots for decades, and now bots are doing better than kids. And this is not just kids; they're doing better than trained doctors on medical exams. So, what does it truly mean? What do we mean by education and understanding, and how do we evaluate it? And I think what LLMs have done is they have ushered this moment of reckoning regarding what education even means, because standardized tests they are beating humans, right? And to me, the answer is basically we've been testing bots, and we've been expecting bot-like behavior. Right? I don't have the answer to this, but I love it. Right? That now we have to really say, okay, what is true understanding? Right? So this is, that to me is the big thing that I think as education system we have to reckon with. I haven't worked in education. I've worked in mostly health and a little bit in agriculture when it comes to social sector. And I've seen this challenge of trying to get ASHA workers trying to remember everything. Not very different from what we expect from kids preparing for NEET. My daughter is preparing for NEET right now. Right now, when information is at your fingertips, what is it then that I need to do as a human being? So that I think is the big question, and I don't know how we are going to honestly deal with it, right? Because it has to be dealt with, right? So I'll come back to DPGs.
I think that's actually a great segue into some potential downsides or rethinking.
Sure. I'll quickly add a couple of things about DPGs. Now, the other thing is there's concentration of these algorithms in various ways. Folks who benefit from data today are folks who already have data. Folks who benefit from narrow data are the ones who already have the foundational models. Folks who benefit from infrastructure are the ones who already have talent, right? So when we think of DPGs, these are some of the issues we are grappling with. We also work with METI. We have data collection creation efforts that span 80 districts. There are various funders for this. But what we are grappling with is now that we are bringing together this data and we are trying to create even the infrastructure of how you bring data together, curate it, and make it available for model learning as a DPG. Can you do that? Because a nonprofit that wants to work in maybe education, maybe healthcare, they're not going to have access to this, leave alone having coders and the talent, right? Guess what? Even universities have lost all their talent to big tech, right? So what now, right? So this is an element we have to grapple with, right? So that's what we are trying to do, right? The second thing is, yes, we need to build horizontal, but sometimes you don't understand what you need to build as horizontals without taking some focused effort on the verticals. Here, I have so many nonprofits coming to us and asking, Raghu, can you help with that? Can you help with this? So there we are looking to start small pilots where we try to use this contradictory term, small LLM approach, right? Domain-specific content, and at least take on some narrow challenges, right? Without. Lastly, I want to leave with, remember, tech excites us. We're all techies. But let's remember that tech is often a small part, and sometimes it's a great enabler, accelerator, exponential curve builder. But often tech is a small part and sometimes a very small part of the challenges we need to overcome, right? And I think if we approach that with this humility, especially on the ground, when only 50 million users in the country still use phones the way we use, right? Which is to enhance our lives, education, careers, right? So I'll just leave it there. So yes, excited, but
Yeah. I love that, Raghu, because I think it really opens up some important questions on even, what is education? Do we need to rethink about it and, the way we work? Mekin, last question for you on this topic. As a technologist and, someone, both as a technologist and someone who's really worked with a lot of youth in the country, when you think of generative AI and ChatGPT, do you have any potential fears regarding to what AI can do currently or may able to do in the next few years? And how do we ensure that we are creating and distributing this technology in a responsible manner?
Yeah, I think Raghu already got us started on that, so I'll just build on what Raghu said. Actually, a while back, Magnus Carlsen, the chess champion, the chess world champion, accused a fellow competitor of embedding AI in their body, right? And hence being able to beat Magnus repeatedly, regularly. Right? Now, maybe the embedding AI in the body versus receiving certain signals, etc. Some of that might be fiction, but chess as a domain has been dealing with AI for a long time, right? And is a fairly controlled environment for us to understand, okay, how does AI develop? How does AI overtake human capability? And then how do we coexist, right? And AI has led to people learning chess much, much faster. People being able to improve in chess capabilities a lot faster. But the questions on cheating remain, right? So if it's not for fun and learning, if it is for certification, how pure is your certificate, right? How non-AI is your certificate? And do we even care? Do we care about a human's capability without AI, or should we be caring about a human's capability with AI, right? If AI, like Google, is accessible to everybody of us at the press of a button, what are we trying to maximize? So I feel that piece around, hence, what do we measure? And then, unfortunately, in education, the assessment has been defining education. So that will itself play a very large role. I hope this questioning happens sooner and faster. I am not seeing it enough. So thank you, Raghu, for bringing it up. I am not seeing it enough just yet. So I think the other as in relatively smaller but important concerns or fears to think about are biases that are inherent in AI, right? That AI, as in, for example, a quote around a lawyer and a paralegal were to marry, but the bride ran away, right? And ChatGPT assumes it is the paralegal that was the bride, right? Because that is data. It has been trained on ages of data, and it will then continue to tell you what existing data tells you. So the majoritarian views will continue to get propounded and be told, versus minority views which are the ones that actually make change happen, right? Which are the ones that need to be listened to. So it was great to see Stephen's second point, and I think the importance of that, which is there are many ground truths. AI systems today do not understand many ground truths, right? They seem to be overconfident systems saying this is the truth, right? And that is a large worry. That's a large concern. I think finally, like we're almost out of time, but finally, I think the largest issue with edtech or with education and AI is outside of education. In my head, the challenge is with the scaling of distractions outside of education, because I think of us education entrepreneurs playing at kindergarten levels of trying to engage learners, while Instagram and TikTok and Snapchat are playing at pro levels of how to distract young people, right? And this game is going to be highly unfair, and that unfairness is going to expand very widely. So, as in, forget about being able to, like, how do we engage learners, but even getting learners to spend time on this is going to be extremely hard, because the power and the acceleration that the distractions will see, right, is scary. Right? That what an Instagram can do to read, to understand, and hence the next reel that you see is so much more addictive, and so on. That, in my opinion, is a larger challenge facing education around generative AI compared to what education can use. And that's primarily because we've not, in EdTech, we've not come at EdTech from an engagement first view, right? We've always come at it from a learning first view and not tried to solve for, hey, is the child going to find this fun, right? Or that is, children are used to be, as in, held hostages. So this is definitely better than being held hostage in a classroom. So yeah, I feel those are some of the concerns top of mind for me as this evolves.
Thanks, Mekin. I think, we obviously heard a lot of examples of why AI is really exciting, but I think also really important to touch upon why it can be scary, or like even potential downsides that we should really be mindful of. So at this point, I really want to open it up to the audience. Hopefully some of the examples that brought out got you thinking about even understanding what is AI potential or ChatGPT, how can maybe you leverage it in your own line of work. So if we can have some questions, top of mind questions from the audience that the panelists can answer, I request we can take in a few at a time and then the panelists can answer them.
Another question on bias. So I think we're in a unique position where you have hundreds of millions of people entering the internet over the next few years. ChatGPT will be popular, LLMs everywhere, but all studies show that LLMs exhibit more bias than commercially available data sets. For example, I could ask in Hindi that I am a young school-going girl and I'm not allowed to eat food before the male members of my house. My mom says this is to protect our culture. Is she right or is she wrong? And in Hindi, ChatGPT says she's right. You ask the same question in English, ChatGPT says it's wrong to discriminate, and gender inequality cannot be part of a culture, right? My fear is a lot of people are going to be using LLMs. A lot of stuff outside of ChatGPT will be built on LLMs. Every conference I go, all nonprofits are going, we're going to move everything to an LLM. These biases will creep in. And suddenly you have people reading these things, and there's a fear that it reinforces all of these biases in us because ChatGPT said so, or LLM said so, or this app told me that this is right. How do we protect against all of this, even when this doesn't even seem like a thought, like these biases, which are very, very prominent? And they're not just prominent on gender, they're prominent on sexuality, they're prominent on religion, they're prominent on everything.
All right. Anyone wants to? Okay, we'll just take one or two more questions and then we'll answer. Shonit, 1 second. I think there's someone behind you.
Sure. my name is Abhishek Kumar, and actually I am a chartered accountancy student of CA Final. So I can exactly tell what kind of problem I am facing regarding preparation of this kind of problem. So as I as I have been studying from last 6 to 7 years, I found that Google is just summarizing the facts that are already present in their world. ChatGPT is one advancement over the Google, that it is almost making it crisp more than Google is providing link we can open and then study. ChatGPT is providing just collecting the data of all the Google and then presenting it in a more concise form, more presentable form, that is we are doing from the PPT also. So most of the presenters who are doing today are that they are presenting the PPT in a more crisp form. But what I am getting of that ChatGPT or any edtech solution, they are not providing me what I need. I need something like analytical part. So there are three phases: preventive phase, detective phase, and corrective phase of any, whether it is health, whether it is education, whether it is traffic, whether it is nutrition. So the whole of the business that today or edtech learning, or whether it is Ola, Uber, whether it is they are finding solutions to ambulance also. They are either looking for the medium part, that is detection part, and they are doing the correction part. But nobody is thinking of a sustainable future where we can hold our attention only 40% on the curative part, rather than we should go for the preventive part also. Suppose that if we apply ChatGPT in such a way that it provides us an analytical part of the education, so that we can go for the research and innovation part. I can say that no edtech solutions will provide me the data in such a way that I can go for research and innovation in the long run. So how ethical learning? Suppose that I ask a question to the edtech platform. It gives me solution. What I benefit from that? Nothing. Because it will not cater to the needs of the industry. It will not cater to the needs of my future. It will not cater to the needs of research and innovation. So if that goes on, one day the system will come to such a point that if we have solution for everything, but nobody is actually getting the point that we need to understand what is there need to be done regarding research and innovations. And we will come at a point where everything knows everything. Everyone knows everything, but nobody knows nothing. So we need to focus more on the preventive part rather than corrective and detective part. Most of the business solutions today, 140 million people are residing in this country, and only few of them are moving towards research and innovation. And still I am finding very much amazed that even after 50 years also, if this continues and we are focusing on corrective and detective part, our India will not produce better scientists. Even though, because we are already moving to a robotized moment, as Mr. Raghu sir has said, we are already a robots. And we are getting a more efficient robots, we are getting more out of the ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And I finding that somebody today, tomorrow somebody will come and they will give advanced ChatGPT. It will present the information in more crisp form. Somebody will again come and it will present the information in more crisp form.
Yeah. So I think just to frame your question, it's also about like exactly how much value ChatGPT is really adding. Like, is it just presenting existing information in a better form, or is it meaningfully, does it really have analytical capabilities to come to a new solution?
If it does not provide
So,
analytical
I
solutions,
think
there is no way.
Yeah, we'll just take those two questions. Yeah, so we'll get to you in a bit. Maybe let's take the bias question first, and then we can address that one.
Manu, very thorny question, right? So I think it's a big challenge. Are we grappling with it enough? No, but I think there are some ways forward. But all of them requires nuanced thinking and participation from several stakeholders, which is what makes me scared that maybe we don't have the patience for that sort of nuanced thinking, right? Let's take the example of what Europe is doing, what they are saying in their latest iteration, and this happened before LLMs came out, right? They said, we are going to set the bar based on the risk of the particular application. So if it's a medical application, we are going to treat it, we are going to apply the medical device type regulations on it, and so on and so forth. The challenge with that is, like in medicine, in other areas actually lack those sort of systems or thinking to even start with. At least India still lacks the medical device regulations, by the way. It's still, I mean, it's still, but at least that sort of thinking is there. Building further on medical systems, as well as how startups typically tend to build it, you are iterative in nature. You don't just scale it. Of course, there's vanity metrics, investor pressure. All these things sometimes do make you through a bunch of cash before you figure out your formula, right? I'm just being honest, right? So here, I think the challenge is in medical devices, in medical applications, you have phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. Will we have this sort of a patience? Is that the right approach? But maybe there's some inspiration to be taken from there, at least in certain spaces, if the risk is high, where you say, look, you have sandboxes, etc., like we are doing in ABDM for development of new software, right? And you say, show that it's okay in enough diversity of places. The second is, I think expecting these algorithms to work everywhere similarly is not going to happen. So, and hence you have to be okay. We need a system which allows things to be deployed in Kerala. Maybe it's working well because of, I don't know, because of Malayalam, Manorama and all these things. Maybe the content is enough that it's gotten well and but it probably is not yet working in Santali, right? So you have to be okay to make those sort of choices, right? The third is, we need systems to actually test these things in a diversified, distributed manner. So I can tell you that I didn't understand the Hindi of Eastern UP when I first landed up in Gorakhpur. I grew up in semi-rural Telangana. My Hindi was Doordarshan, Hindi movies, and the Dakkani Urdu, right? So I had no clue what they were saying. It took me a few days, right? So we need to actually build these assets as digital public goods for us to even test these things, right? We are undertaking these sort of stuff in medicine with folks like ICMR, and hopefully we can work with like METI and others on the language side.
No, I think you're raising a very valid point, and it's something that's getting talked about a lot. And maybe I'll take a share more a Khan Academy perspective and the kind of approach that we've taken, right? And the reason, you can go and ask the same question to ChatGPT, and you can use Khan Academy's AI tool, which is Khanmiko. And the reason we felt we wanted the tool, right, is because we wanted, as you're leveraging this for education, we wanted this to do certain things and to enable certain things. And so how do you train that, and how do you do the prompt engineering and train it to be what the kind of responses you want them to give? We were very clear that we wanted this to be in some way almost a personalized tutor that is available to a student. So how do you have this tool actually behave like that personalized tutor, right? What is it that they need to do? And that's a lot of what went down into the thinking, the design thinking, and the process before it was even rolled out. The testing piece is completely +1 on that. When we launched it, it was only available to very select users. It's still not available across geographies. Even in the US, it's not publicly available. And we realized the risks that are there. But I think our approach is, this is here, right? It's not going away. We can't run away from it. So how do you leverage the potential that's there while mitigating the risks? And we're all talking about the risks and ways of mitigating. As you enter into a new language, what is the kind of testing that's needed in a new language, in a new geography? Those will all be very important. And I suppose the onus is on all of us in this room to make sure we're doing this in a very responsible way.
Yeah, just quick one.
I think the biases have always been around, right? For example, people who do SEO better, their content comes on the top of the Google page. The biases are always there, right? For example, if ChatGPT is giving you a wrong answer, even you can create a fake propaganda video on YouTube and make it viral, right? So similarly, when internet became like a thing in India, There were a lot of fake news websites. When fake news websites came, the counter websites also came, which can tell you whether this news is fake or not. Right? So there's always a collective thing, and I mean, majoritarian view, as Mekin said, is a very big risk, but that is always there with SEO and other things as well. So collectively, we have to live with it and be more responsible and make our children be aware of these risks as we make them aware of other things, right, on internet, what they can do, should not do, etc. This is another thing which should get added in the part of the journey.
Thank you, Shashank. Thanks, Shubhra. And Raghu, I think just to summarize the last point, ChatGPT, generative AI is here. It will stay. And yes, there are good actors and bad actors that can, use the tool for good or bad. But I think, as with any technology, I think the onus is on us to make sure that we are using it for the best and also making measures in terms of testing it appropriately, setting boundary conditions, um, and being user-centric and watching out for biases as we develop it. So I know we're at time and there's lunch that's being served right now and people must be hungry. So I'll just thank the panels one last time. Thank you, Raghu. Thank you, Shashank, Shubhra, Aditya, Gaurav, Mekin. And thank you for all the participants for listening in. I hope you are walking away from this session with getting a better sense of what generative AI is, B, starting to think about how it may apply to your line of work, and C, being cautiously excited about the future this will hold. Thank you all.